and I can come down for lunch, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's see.
Maybe Dean, we could start and maybe even switch you around maybe.
Yeah, we can go ahead and give a quick update, and then when the congressman comes on, we'll get him going. That's fine.
That'll work. Just wanted to be conscious of everybody's time. I want to welcome everybody to our first TATT chat of the month, and it's hard to believe it's almost the middle of June, but it is. It's gotten hot. Summer's here. The COVID virus seems to be trending in the right way, and so I've heard a couple of guys talk about even attending normal events. We have a special guest today. We have a congressman, upstate Congressman Williams Timmons, and I understand from Freddie he was on another Zoom call, so hopefully he can jump in here in just a second. But until he gets here, I'm going to turn it over to Dean and let him give us some updates on what's going on here in the upstate of South Carolina. Dean?
Great, perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody. Appreciate you all being with us today. Well, real quick, before the congressman comes on, we will give you a quick update on some things we have happening. Erica is going to put our upcoming 10 at the top events in the chat. One I want to note for you, next Wednesday, we are officially unveiling the Upstate Eco Map, which is for entrepreneur support providers in the upstate. It's an exciting tool we found out of Baltimore, a company that extrapolates everything and keeps it updated in terms of if you're a small business or someone who wants to start a business trying to find resources and information. We know there are a lot of resources available, but it's not always easy to find them. So we have the Start Grow Upstate initiative, and the unveiling of that mapping tool and website will be next Wednesday. So we encourage you to join us for that. Also, we've been doing the TATT Reconnects on Friday. They have been a lot of fun. We have 3 more scheduled this month. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on healthcare, and then on the 18th, the focus will be on workforce, specifically around our skilled trades and manufacturing. And then on the 25th, we will be in Spartanburg at the Hub City Bookshop. So encourage you to join us there. All of those registrations and things are on the events page. You can register. We keep those to 20, 25 people, fairly informal. And it's just been really fun. We're going to have a couple more in July. We're looking to do one down in Abbeville, Greenwood area, hopefully at West Carolina Tel during the month, and then we'll have a couple more, and we'll go from there. So I understand that Congressman Timmons is on the line. So with that, Congressman, we appreciate you taking time. I know you're in district this week, and so you've had a lot going on, and with that, I'll turn it over to you for some remarks, and then we'll have some questions. If anyone has questions, please put them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them with the congressman.
Well, hey, thank you so much for having me. Great to be with you all virtually. I am sick and tired of virtual meetings. I'm sure you all are. So let's hope the next time this is in person, and perhaps with an adult beverage. You know, I'll just give you a really quick update and turn it over for questions. I want to leave ample time for that. So I've been in office now for 28 months, 27 months, and you know, parts have been very challenging, parts have been very rewarding. Constituent service is always a highlight. We're able to help people. I ran for office because the federal government, government generally made me mad. And so to be someone's advocate, to try to get a resource or whatever it may be. We've had so many passport requests lately, it would blow your mind. You know, just helping constituents in the 4th Congressional District is probably the most rewarding part of this job. You know, particularly during PPP, we had so many fantastic success stories being able to help businesses get relief from the federal government for the pandemic. The good news is pandemic is behind us. We obviously are reopening. The additional federal unemployment benefits will end in, I guess, less than a month. So, we're going to get back to work, and we are going to probably get a lot of people moving to the upstate more than usual. So we got to be ready for them. And I know everybody's ready to grow responsibly. The cities and the counties are all working hard to manage the influx of people. They're coming here because we got a good thing going, whether it's the geography, the natural beauty, the good business climate, or the people. Everybody's going to keep moving here because it is one of the better parts of the country. I'll be very brief. I spend most of my time in Congress on the Select Committee for the Modernization of Congress. It is so much fun. It is a bipartisan committee, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and we are working together to try to help make Congress less dysfunctional. Leader McCarthy made me the Republican lead, so I am the vice chairman of that committee. And it is an area that we will get a lot done this Congress. We got a lot done last Congress, but we left a good bit of work to do. So it is a very rewarding area because we are truly bipartisan. We're working together and we're making big changes so Congress can work more efficiently and effectively and transparently for the American people in years ahead. So it's an honor and a privilege to serve y'all in the upstate. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for having me again.
Well, Congressman, let me start. Thank you again for being with us. With the Modernization of Congress Committee, tell us a little bit more. I thought that was interesting when I read, that you were on it and the vice chair. Is that something that's been created recently, or is that a committee that's been around for a long time? What led to the creation and what it's doing now?
Well, my campaign slogan, I don't know if y'all remember, was "Washington is broken." And I think that's why I was sent to Washington, because everybody's like, yes, it's broken. And, when you get up there and you see the way things are going, it's not new. The polarization of our country is on full display in Congress. And every 30 to 40 years, Congress does a select committee. A select committee is not a standing committee. So it just has a length of period, like the Benghazi committee was a select committee, for example. But yeah, so you have a mission, you have a time period, and 3, 2, 1, go. You gotta do your best to accomplish the objective. We originally were given a 1 year, and that was at the beginning of the 116th Congress, so 2019. And then we were extended for another year to 2020. And I think the pandemic created some impediments to us kind of getting everything done that we wanted to get done. So the speaker was kind enough to extend us for a full 2 years. And it is extremely unusual that a sophomore would lead a committee. I'm very fortunate that I was on the previous committee just as a member, not as the leader. And 4 out of the 6 retired. So they were kind of left with, I was all that was left. So, hey, I'll take whatever I can get, but it really is a lot of fun. Thank you for asking about it.
Well, and kind of building on that, one of the things I heard you say the other day that I thought was very interesting and true is not only do you have, differentiation between the Republicans and the Democrats, but also you have to try to figure out as Congress things that work for the northern part of the country, the West, the South, and then you've got to deal with age. You've got young people like yourself, and then you've got people who have been in for 50, 60 years who maybe have a different mindset and different types of ideas for how to solve issues. So how as a Congress do you put all those things together and try to work collaboratively to lead as a body?
Sure. And, my time in the state Senate was so wonderful. There were 46 members, and we all knew each other by name, and we were all respectful of one another most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time. And that's the same thing in the state house. It's sufficiently small that people actually build relationships, not only with people in their geographic region, but colleagues across the aisle. And that's so important, because those relationships, that mutual respect is everything. In the Senate, I always joke, if you stood up and said something ridiculous, not only would your colleagues across the aisle start asking you questions and make you defend yourself, but you'd have to see the reaction from the people on your side of the aisle, and they're looking at you like, that was really stupid. Why'd you say that? So, you don't have to suffer through that when you're on Fox News and nobody is actually debating you. Nobody's going to say, well, what about this fact? That policy seems terrible. Why are you doing that? So the whole system's broken. In 2019, I spent the night in Washington, I think 62 nights. We had 131 working days, technically, of which 65 of those days were full days. 66 of those days were travel days, where you fly in and you vote at 6:30 in the evening. That doesn't count for work. And if you vote at 11 o'clock in the morning, you fly out, that doesn't count for work. So Congress worked 65 days in 2019, and you wonder why we can't get anything done. So we're trying to bridge the divide between the different parts of the country, like you referenced. One thing I learned in the state legislature was it was not always party line. It was actually more often than not rural versus urban, just because the needs of an urban versus a rural setting are so different. And it's also a difference in your view of the role of government. If you live in northern Greenville County, you probably only get power from theoretically the government. But if you live in Greenville City, the government provides so much for you. So it's just a difference in your view of the role of government. And so trying to find a way to mold all of these different ways of thinking into one policy is very challenging. And Congress for the last couple of decades has just failed miserably. So we're trying to make it better.
And so the Modernization of Congress Committee is looking at those elements, correct?
Yeah, I mean, literally, we're doing everything. We've done staffing, we've done calendar and schedule, and we're even talking about where you sit. So right now, we sit interspersed throughout each other. In a normal committee hearing, you're going to have Republicans on one side and Democrats on the other, and that's just not productive. I really think that forced family fun is something that is effective. So trying to find ways to force people to interact with each other to build relationships is critical. And I have a great relationship with the members of the Modernization Committee, and that facilitates policymaking, that facilitates an exchange of ideas. And that's how we're going to fix immigration. That's how we're going to fix healthcare. That's how we're going to fix debt. It's not going to be on Twitter.
Right. And you're also a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee. And I would think that probably rolls very well with the Modernization Committee, because Congress looks very different today than it did 40 or 50 years ago in terms of the makeup. What are some of the things you're talking about in that committee, and how do they connect with the modernization component?
So in addition to being the vice chair of the Modernization Committee, I am on the Financial Services Committee, and one of the subcommittees I'm on is the Diversity and Inclusion Subcommittee. So unfortunately, our Financial Services Committee does nothing. All we do is message, and the policies that are being pushed by certain members of that committee are generally very, very far left. So I am all for diversity and inclusion, but some of the policies mandating certain percentages for publicly traded boards of directors and things like that. I mean, we're not doing a lot of legitimate legislating at the committee and subcommittee level. And that's something that I've experienced for the last really 2.5 years. Generally speaking, all we do is kind of message throughout the year, and then we'll have a couple of big, massive bills that we never get to read. and we're expected to vote on them within like 6 hours. So that's not necessarily ideal for legislating. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer.
Okay, we're gonna pivot to some other questions, and Tim Kowalski, if you want to unmute, you can ask about HR 763762, which I don't know much about. So Tim, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dean. And it's so good to see you, Representative Timmons, again. I tried to see you at the barbecue, but you had a long line out to the parking lot. So good for you on that one. As you know, you've got 2 of South Carolina's 4 medical schools in your district, and a new coming act, the DOC Act, HR 3762, is going to permanently authorize and expand funding for the THC GME program, which residency training slots using HRSA funds. And up until this time, those funds have only been given every so many years, and it's given some pause for folks to develop residency programs based on not permanently authorized funds. That's going to change now. With your work on the Congress Modernization Committee, I am understanding that Representatives Pallone and Senators Murray believe this is a bipartisan kind of bill. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with it yet, but if so, if you could consider co-sponsoring it, that would be wonderful. As you know, our graduates from our medical schools in South Carolina, because we have 4 schools, we are finding ourselves having to export our graduates to other states for residency training. And so for us to be able to use HRSA funds to develop residency programs in federally qualified health center areas in our state and rural and underserved areas, we have the chance of keeping some of our graduates in South Carolina. And we're one of 25 states that don't have any THC GME residencies, which provide for the primary care, rural and underserved needs. Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm trying to find it right now, but I have not been able to. I have not heard of that bill before. I apologize, but my team, we will definitely look at it and get back to you. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to talk to you at Mutts. I'll just tell everybody, we have these things called coffee and conversation, where we go out and we try to meet with, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 people and just have a cup of coffee. And it's not really a town hall. The whole point is to make it small and kind of intimate. We had one at Mutts Barbecue. This is 2 weeks ago. We had 150 people come. It was absolute chaos. We managed it to the best of our ability, but I think that goes to show there's just a lot of people are very passionate right now. They're concerned about the direction of our country, and so we got through that one. But coffee and conversation is supposed to be like 20 people, so
yeah, it's kind of hard when it's that many folks. You're not going to have a whole lot of conversation around that, but being available is certainly a positive thing. Want to talk a little bit about infrastructure and the status of that program. It seems that the hang-up is around the definition of infrastructure. Democrats look at it as really anything that helps people achieve success, while Republicans are focused on kind of the traditional definition of physical infrastructure. What do you see as a compromise to get something? There's no question we have, crumbling. Some of our physical infrastructure is crumbling, and we also have, needs for people who are not, historically been able to achieve success. So how do you create a compromise to get something done around that important issue?
Sure. So, I've supported an infrastructure package for really the entire time I've been in Congress. So the original proposal by the Biden administration was $3.5 trillion, and 8% of that went to what is considered traditional infrastructure: roads, bridges, airports, ports, rail, et cetera, et cetera. Rural broadband, everyone now is on the same page that rural broadband is infrastructure. So, that's what most of the Republicans view as infrastructure. The Republicans counter with the $600 billion package. I think right now we're up to 900 on the Republican side, and the White House is down to like 2 trillion, but we're still $1 trillion apart. So, we got to keep working. I have a feeling that we'll fall somewhere between 1 and 1.5 trillion. And I would bet that the reverse percentage is more accurate. It'll probably be 10% will be things that I do not think are infrastructure, but may get enough support to get across the finish line. But paid family leave is important, and I definitely want to have that conversation, but we're not going to jam it in the bill and call it infrastructure and smile and act like it's okay. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are, but I do think it'll get done within the next 4 months. I hope it'll get done in the next 4 months.
So I know kind of the part two of that conversation is, and, I think we all agree, very needed, all the funds from, the various acts around the COVID-19, but you have all of that spending. You had the tax cut in 2018 that changed the dynamic around amount of resources available. And then now you're talking about another infrastructure bill. So a lot of money going out in various ways, not quite as much coming in. What is your thoughts about how to deal with that element, but then really long term with the additional debt that we've seen added and that will continue to be added?
Sure. So first, I think the name of the 2017 bill, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, was terrible. It should have been tax reform for American competitiveness in the global economy for the 21st century. It ideally was going to pay for itself, but we did not grow sufficient. So, that is something we have to deal with, but we're not going to deal with it right now. And, we're in the middle of coming out of this pandemic, and we need to facilitate economic opportunity, facilitate success, get people back to work. But the American Rescue Plan, which is the only COVID relief package that was done on a party line vote, is not doing that. It's a disincentive to get back to work. Currently in South Carolina, you're paid $636 a week to stay home. You walk down the streets of any of our cities, you're going to see help wanted signs, bonuses, $20 an hour in restaurants that normally would pay, 15 or 16, just because they're just dying for employees that want to come work. So that's a problem. And the fact that we're not doing anything to fix that in Washington is wrong. The governor's taken us off of the $300 additional unemployment benefits on June 30th. And I think that's the right thing to do. I would have even liked to have seen it done sooner, but I'm still happy we're getting back to work. And, I think the states that wait until September 6th to cut off the additional unemployment benefits are going to regret it. Debt. We have $30 trillion in debt right now. Under the proposed budget, we'll have $50 trillion in debt in 10 years. We're seeing inflation right now, and I hope that we're seeing inflation not because of our monetary policy, but because of scarcity, because people are not working. We're not able to, our global supply chains are broken. We're not able to get things from, manufacturers in foreign countries because people at the ports aren't working and they can't unload them fast enough. So I hope that's the case, and it's not the fact that we have $30 trillion in debt and we can't increase interest rates, because we also have $30 trillion in debt. And, we're going to continue to have this problem. But now is not the time to talk about it. But we're coming out of a pandemic. We're not going to increase the corporate tax rate in the middle of a recovery. I mean, give it a year or two. And the fact that the Biden administration wants to have a fully paid for infrastructure package. I mean, if we're going to invest money, if we're going to truly invest, it is reasonable to borrow a portion of that money, not all of it, but within reason, and invest that money to get a return on that investment. But paying people to stay home without cause is unacceptable. And I've been saying this for weeks. If you want to get a shot, get a shot. If you don't, don't. But get back to work. I mean, I'm not being callous, but no one has an excuse anymore now that the vaccine is available to everyone that wants it.
Right. And I think, back to the point about difference in different parts of the country, in South Carolina, we had less than 4% unemployment prior to the pandemic, and we're back down to 4 or 5%. So we're basically at full employment. It's a very different issue here than it is in some of the other states that maybe don't have the same needs in terms of the help wanted signs out there and stuff of that nature the way we do. So, you just have to deal with different things in different parts of the country. We have a question related back to your work on diversity and inclusion subcommittee, understanding that you don't agree with some of the proposals coming from the Democrats. The question is, what is your focus or ideas related to reducing the racial wealth gap, which, there's so many studies out there that illustrate that. Spartanburg did a great one here in our region recently that illustrates that. So what are your thoughts about, how do we deal with that important issue, the racial wealth gap?
Sure, that's a great question. It's something that I encountered really throughout my life. I just had a meeting earlier with the South Carolina Human Affairs Commissioner, Ms. Davis, and we talked about this, and we talk about it in the Modernization Committee because we're still trying to figure out data. We don't record race or gender in Congress, so we rely on bizarre studies from people that spend countless hours to try to understand the race and gender makeup of people that work on the Hill. So this is an issue everywhere. In the Air Force, it's also a huge issue. We deal with this issue all the time. So the question is, what is the best policy to facilitate opportunity without disadvantaging someone else that has done nothing to deserve it? So that's the direction that I have been pushing things, additional opportunities for people that have been historically disadvantaged. I think that's the fairest way, as opposed to in the military, literally there's situations where they have to promote someone of a certain gender or a certain color. And that is, I don't think that's appropriate, because there's someone that has struggled all their life, and because of the color of someone else's skin, even though they're not as they're not the best candidate, they're going to get overlooked for a promotion or for an opportunity. We got to really start at the beginning. I think education is a huge component. I think investing in education for people that come from a socioeconomic background that is disadvantaged is a huge focus of mine, because I think education leads to better opportunities and more income. I hope that was, that's my general view on that.
The reality is all of these issues are very complex, and and the outcomes that we think might come out of one thing isn't necessarily the outcome that we get. I was listening to a report last night that said cutting off the SNAP benefits for people based on the work requirement actually adds to the unemployment rate, or makes it even harder for those people, some of those people, to work than if they were continuing to get the SNAP benefits. So it's just really a crazy situation. Sometimes you do things that make perfect sense based on trying to facilitate an outcome, but that doesn't necessarily lead directly to the outcome that you're trying to accomplish. So in your role, tell me, as we wrap up here in a couple minutes, what do you you from what I've gathered are very insightful, do a lot of reading and a lot of research in your work, and certainly you have a great team that helps you with that. What are some of the things that you evaluate, kind of criteria before you make a decision to be supportive or opposed to something?
So I make a strong point to hear both sides of every issue. We are faced with so much that we have on our plate. Congress does so many things. The fact that Tim was referencing 3762 or whatever you said earlier, my team did write it down. I did not. That means that's the 3,762nd bill that was filed. So there's literally thousands and thousands of pieces of legislation. So really, my team will work on kind of doing background research, see who else is supportive, see why they're supportive, try to investigate kind of from a policy perspective, the impact it'll have. And then, put all that within the framework of, I think the government should do as little as possible. And I think decisions and dollars should be pushed as close to the problem as possible. So, the federal government's role is to do things that the state and the local government can't, and leave the state and the local governments to do what is needed for their people, because they are the most responsive to those issues. That's just kind of the process. I'm going to put my cell phone number and email address in the chat real quick, just so anybody that wants to reach out is welcome to follow up. We got time for another question or two?
Yeah, there's a last question on infrastructure related to, we've heard about the high-speed rail from Atlanta to Charlotte, and really the idea is to get all the way up to Washington, D.C. The impact on the upstate certainly would be positive. What is your thought we work a lot on transportation and mobility, and we need to focus on the immediate elements of that as well. But in terms of the long term and the high speed rail piece, what are your thoughts as that moves forward as part of the infrastructure component?
Yeah, so that was included in Amtrak's proposal, I believe, and it'll all depend on how big the infrastructure package is, and how much is devoted to rail. I definitely would have preferred to get on a train and to go up to Washington than the flights that I took and had enormous layovers during COVID. I think I was the only one flying during COVID. We had to go back and forth to DC a good bit. I drove a few times, but I would not have minded a high-speed rail. Obviously, we just got to figure out the economics, and I'm not opposed to it, but I haven't had enough information about the justification for that that investment.
And of course we have the best airport around with GSP here, so
it's incredible. It is truly incredible
at GSP. Last thing to get you out of here, when we had a entrepreneur meeting a few weeks ago where we had one of the staff members from Senator Scott, and he talked about that though there is, at the high level, a lot of dysfunction, that there has been a lot of behind the scenes collaboration and cooperation amongst staffs from the different parties and things of that nature. And I wonder if you could close by just telling us an example of something you've been involved with that engages both the Republicans and Democrats, and gives us some hope that at some point we're going to get over this paralysis of and polarization and get back to working collaboratively to make this country stronger.
Sure. No, and Senator Scott, his work on police reform is huge, and I am optimistic that they're going to come to terms, and that we will have something that Congress can come together and support here in the next few weeks. I'm very, very hopeful. It definitely, I just hope they can find a path forward. I spend more of my time talking to Derek Kilmer, the chairman of the Modernization Committee, than I do really anyone else. As chair and vice chair, we work hand in hand all the time to try to create a path forward for the committee's work and to figure out what is best for our proposals. And so it's really just fantastic. I said earlier, my campaign slogan was Washington is broken. 2.5 years in to be the Republican in charge of trying to help literally fix Congress, its procedures, its processes, and just try to make it more functional is some of the greatest work I've ever done in my life. And I'm just very pleased that I'm able to spend so much of my time on it. So, we're going to make some big changes to Congress, and I'm hopeful that it will allow people to build relationships and to have mutual respect and to have dialogue and to then have collaboration. Because right now, people just use talking points and yell at each other on Twitter. And I mean, it's just not productive. So we've got to find a way to come together, because I mean, immigration, healthcare, debt, these are all things that we have to get a handle on. We have to fix. And no matter what anybody tells you in Washington, neither party is going to be able to do it alone. They're going to have to do it together. So, yeah.
Great. Well, we appreciate your time and your candor, and you are always very open and available for everyone. And that's shown by you putting your email in there for folks. And I know you are genuine in wanting to hear from your constituents. And I do have to say, your team that we work with is great. And I've gotten to meet some of your other folks this past week, which has been really good as well. So thank you for what you do. And as you know, the folks here in the upstate and with TATT at the top, we're all available to support you and the work you do as much as we can. So we appreciate your time and your involvement and work for us.
Hey, thank you all so much for having me. Please, let's do this in person next time. Come on, it's going to be
absolutely.
We'll get together. We'll get together.
We're having our big outdoor networking event on August 30th. So hopefully we're going to do it at the airport. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for blues, barbecue, and some brews. So
what do you know what time it is?
The evening on August 30th.
I'm actually going to be in the airport that day. I have a flight already booked.
There you go.
I will try to make it.
You can stop by on your way. We've got Mac Arnold performing, and it's going to be a great event. So we'll get you that beer that day.
Hey, great to be with y'all. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. And with that, Justine, I will turn it over to you for our resource updates.
Thank you, Dean. Hi, everyone. For our resource updates today, we have a couple lovely ladies. Julie Capaldi, the president of United Way of Pickens County, is going to go first. I keep getting the emails with Camp IROC, and I just am dying to hear more about Camp IROC.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the pandemic, everyone suffered, but the children suffered the most. We have a bold goal of 70% of third graders reading at grade level by 2025, and we were well on our way after 7 years of this fantastic intervention program. And when they tested this fall, 69% tested not at grade level, which is worse than when we started. So it's a collaboration between the school district, United Way, and the Pickens County YMCA and Clemson University's Call Me Mr. program. And when Read to Succeed legislation was mandated, it was for rising fourth graders, but we thought that was too late. So we started with rising second and third and fourth, and then went down to K-5. So last year we were virtual with 113 students. We still had progress, but this year we're back in person, and we have 300 and between 345 and 350 every day. This has been the first week. It's been interesting. We've had a hard time hiring Y counselors, which is a national trend for lifeguards and camp counselors. And so to address that issue, it's really been hard for us. The other thing that this is the first week, so the first 2 days were pretty hard. It's more children than we've ever had, and a lot more little ones, and they haven't been in the classroom, so they are not used to being in that structure. So it's been a little bit intense. And the other thing that we've had to address is the social emotional component of what's happened to the children during the pandemic. So we've added guidance counselors to the mix of our team and funded them in each one of the positions and at each one of the sites. So we've, really had to address that. Some of these children, they've lost family members, they're dealing with grief, fear, they're really far behind, and they were already far behind. So now they're even further behind, and they have to read. So we're going to really stay the course. It's a much shorter season, summer season, because school starts in the beginning of August. So we're basically having to cram 8 weeks worth of programming in 4 weeks. So it's been a little bit difficult, but we feel really hopeful. Next week's going to be an awesome week. It's always hard the first week, but we're very excited about this program, and that's really all I have. I'm glad you like it. It's the best thing ever.
Thank you. Yes. Is there anything else going on in Pickens with United Way that you'd like to share before you go?
Yeah, probably so, but I don't think I'll do it this time because, in the essence of time, and
Okay.
I can fill you in.
Okay. Well, why don't you if you would like to put in the chat how people can support you and
Sure.
Camp IROC, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Julie. It's always great to hear from you. And then next we have Dana McConnell. She's Executive Director of Center for Developmental Services. Thanks for being with us, Dana.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me. And just a quick shout out to all my nonprofit peeps out there. So Lisa, good to see you. And of course, Julie, I am just such a huge fan of Camp IROC. We refer a lot of our families to you. So you're just a tough organization to follow on this agenda. So anyway, just great job. Love the support from nonprofits. But as she said, I'm Dana McConnell, the Executive Director of the Center for Developmental Services, or we go by CDS for short. And we're a nonprofit organization in downtown Greenville that serves 8,000 children each year who have developmental delays and disabilities. So one of the statistics that I like to throw out is that 1 in 5 individuals has some sort of disability. So chances are really good that you yourselves know a family member or a neighbor or a friend who has some type of disability. So that's where we come in. That's our niche and our mission in the community. But about 80% of the clients we serve are children, and they're under the age of 12. So our focus really is that strong early intervention in getting children access to those therapies and hearing aids, if that's what's needed, or psychology services that help them catch up with their peers in school. But some of the children we serve are also aging into their teen years, and they may have those lifelong conditions. Could be autism, cerebral palsy, or Down syndrome. And so we'll continue to work with them on independent living skills, helping them to enter the workforce. And then as they transition to adulthood, we also do some case management that will help those adults through the rest of their life with either day or residential services. So it's kind of a great wraparound from infants all the way through adulthood in whatever disability services they need, and we help connect them to those resources. But that's just a little about CDS. I also don't want to keep you guys on too long. You can certainly learn more about us at our website, and that's cdservices.org. I'll put that in the chat in a little bit. And if you happen to have a heart for serving the disability community, and you want to volunteer with us or even consider donating, we invite you to check us out or come on a tour of our facility. We love giving tours. Just call or email me and we'll get that set up.
Thank you. Are you planning any events, fundraisers, or is it still too early for getting back to that type of thing?
We do have our large fundraiser that we are going to do in person, but it's not until September 30th. But that is something that we will, we already have a placeholder on our website if you check out the events, but it's at the Poinsett Club. It's a breakfast. It's a free event. But we hope to pull at your heart a little bit in the hopes that you might donate, but you certainly don't have to. It's just a free awareness breakfast, and all of you are definitely invited.
Thank you.
Dana, before you go, talk for a second, one of the things I think fits very well with your organization is the collaborativeness. So can you talk about kind of the different partners who are part of CDS?
Sure. So CDS started in 2000 as a solution. And we were actually started by parents and other community members who saw the void in disability services. And so the idea was to get the Children's Hospital Prisma and Clarity, which is a hearing and learning type center, Family Connection, the school district, BabyNet, to get all those services in one location so that families who are trying to navigate this new and unfamiliar territory of the disability world, how does all that come together? And then you even have DDSN services, which is the state component. How does that fit into all of that? So parents are obviously overwhelmed. And at CDS, we all work together in helping parents through that. So some of those services are on site. Some of those we have to refer and hold their hand through that. Through the phone contacts and the forms that are filled out, but we definitely cannot do our work alone. We don't work in silos. We have to rely on all the other disability providers. And so we love that word collaboration. So Dean, thank you for mentioning that. And I even love how you challenged Congressman Timmons on that collaborative work. So great job there, because that's how not only the nonprofit work has to be, but I think as a country, that's what's going to move all of us forward is that collaborative work.
Beautiful final words. Thank you so much. Unless Dean, you have any more updates, I will pass it to Mayor Roberts.
Thank you, Justine. I've got 10 minutes to talk, and I'll take all 10 minutes of those. I won't, but I do appreciate just learning obviously something new all the time, and I appreciate what Julie and Dana are doing for our children in upstate and making sure we take care of probably that part of our society that's the most vulnerable, always the elderly and children. So appreciate what you guys are doing there. I want to thank, I know the congressman is gone, but our young congressman is trying to make a difference. He's called Washington dysfunctional, and I would tend to agree there. I do think that the power of our country has shifted to cities and counties and local governments, and the whole idea of public-private partnerships and collaboration. That's where we can make a difference in our own community. And I see that every day in our community. So I want to thank everybody on the call who has a hand in that. And I want to, as we approach Friday and the weekend, I want everybody to get out, have some fun, enjoy the sunshine, and let's get out on the lakes and go to the mountains and enjoy the upstate of South Carolina. So we'll see you on the next TATT chat, and everybody have a good rest of the day. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you.